So basically, I'm Palestinian, but I don't know how things work in the Knesset, but I know there's a first reading, a second reading, and then there's an approval or passing of any law. And my question is maybe to Chaim, because maybe you were there, and maybe to Safsan as well. What was the position of the Arab in case? Where were they? And why didn't they mobilize their constituencies before this law was passed? Why wasn't something taken, an action taken beforehand? And the second question is, what does this law mean to the negotiations with the Palestinians?
Thank you. Next one.
Yeah, I think two brief questions. The first, I think you started to touch on, but what do you all think prevents these different minority groups from consolidating into a collective in regard to the nation-state bill? As you saw, there were protests from the Druze, from the Palestinians living within Israel. The LGBTQ community was also invigorated because of how it affected surrogacy law, but all of these things seem to exist kind of siloed and disassociated from each other. And do you see anything that can change that and consolidate dissent into an actual movement of effectual movement? And then the second question is just of how people would conceptualize, or how do you define apartheid? It was mentioned that there is not an atmosphere of apartheid, but I would say, on the contrary, and even as we see within the international community, there is a growing concern and attention to this word and what that looks like in manifestation on the ground here. And I think for people that work within different communities, in regard to also status at the West Bank, to the many citizens that live within a legal system framework here, that this law was seen as almost codifying and leading more into this direction of something that's already existed in the realm of thoughts and movement, a thought and movement apartheid, this moving it more towards a kind of legal status. So how do you conceptualize?
Okay, so I'll try to summarize the questions. We have one question about the test from Levin of why the Arab parties did not mobilize their constituency to oppose the law before it passed. Then we have several questions about the future. It was about coalition of minorities to oppose the law, or even the international reaction to the law in regards to the apartheid, and if this discourse can maybe mobilize the people or create a more aggressive reaction towards Israel. There was here a question about the prescription. How do you think people that are opposing the law should take action? I know that there are people that are saying it doesn't change anything. There are some people that are saying let's add equality to the law. There are people that are saying let's fully revoke it. So there's a question about the action, and there's a question of Baruch saying how do you think it will impact the different communities from within? And it refers specifically to Tehillah regarding the Jewish values and the Jewish discourse about equality, maybe. So who wants to start? And lastly, Nivin asked another question about the future, and it's negotiations with Palestinians, maybe a solution, 2 states, 1 state, but beyond the Israeli society. So who wants to start?
You decide. You're the champion.
Talk about the question about the specific issues. I see my friend here is preparing an answer, Googling an answer for you, so I will leave it to her. Look, I think the biggest succession of the Zionist institution establishment during the 70 years, the very efficient separating between communities. And you see, a very famous Israeli sociologist, Professor Yehuda Shenab, his famous work was about we need to connect between the Israeli, the Jewish Arabs that came from Arab countries, from Morocco, etc., and with the Israeli Arabs that are more similar with the Jewish Europeans that are very different, and you see the Israeli Jewish European establishment is suppressing the Mizrahi Jews and also suppressing the Arabs, and the most racist group in the Israeli society is the Israeli Mizrahi Jews towards their brothers. So it's very interesting, it's very thoughtful, but probably the Jewish identity is the most strong identity in Israel, and people that are LGBT or LGBTQ, maybe I'll start to teach my daughter ABC by the LGBTQ you. And etc. They see themselves, first of all, as Jewish. And a lot of people that are suffering from the Israeli, it's, by the way, it's also, I'm also a union guy, unfortunately. And it's a very small union organization that is saying, okay, we are just, workers. Why we cannot unite Jewish and Arabs? And it just doesn't work. It's probably so strong, it's so rooted in the Israeli society, and it's very powerful. And if you're asking me what we can do to overcome it, I don't have an answer. I'm all the time thinking what we can do in order to overcome it, what we can do in order to accept the Israeli Arab Jews inside to the Israeli society as equal. I really don't have an answer. Maybe it's impossible. I'm a very optimistic guy, by the way.
So, yeah. So how it will affect us? I'm not sure. Lawyers generally are not good predicting, they are good responding. But I do think, as I said before, that generally we need to observe what will happen from now on in the Knesset in terms of what are the laws that will enforce the supremacy. But there was one example which is already tangible, and I kind of really didn't believe that there will be such a judgment shortly by a district court, a Jewish judge in a district court in Jerusalem, shortly after this Jewish nation-state law passed. 3 weeks ago, something like that, Judge Drori from the district court in Jerusalem ruled in a civil tort case against Hamas by an Israeli Jewish citizen that was injured in one of the security attacks against him. He was wounded, and this judge came basically and said that, first of all, came and increased the amount of compensation that was imposed on Hamas in order to pay for this for the plaintiff, and the reasoning why was because of the Jewish nation-state law, despite the fact that the injury was 10 or 15 years ago, 20 years ago. And the judge said that the Jewish nation-state law comes and says that it is an obligation on the state to protect every Jew wherever he is, not only Israel, which is also another problem because this law applies on every Jew in the world and it's extraterritorial. When there is no constitution in the world that applies extraterritorially on other people that are non-citizens. And he basically used it and justified the retroactive application of this law. So, yes, it will, this is really crazy. Really crazy. I do really hope that there will be an appeal to the Supreme Court, not because I think I do believe or do believe that the Supreme Court will really do justice, but I would think that there would be a more rational judges sitting in the Israeli Supreme Court. What to do? It's also, I think, not clear because I'm on a lot of panels lately, not only me, but my colleagues, and I think that the question is how to confront not only this law, but how to confront from now on issues of existence of leadership are also on the table. Do we have a really good leadership to mobilize the Palestinians inside of Israel and in Palestine in order to confront it? What has been done
Jewish
was...
citizens also who are against the law.
Sorry?
To mobilize Jewish citizens also who are against the law.
Yeah, but I'm talking from a Palestinian point of view that also we are asking, do we really have adequate leadership among the Palestinians in order to confront it? Some say, since we are talking about apartheid, let's learn from the anti-apartheid movement in South Africa. But on the other hand, we also must be clear that even if there is compliance with the definition of what apartheid is in international law, there is still differences in the reality of apartheid in South Africa. So do we learn from, do we take everything from the anti-apartheid movement, or we take some? So I think that these questions are questions that are being raised. Have the MKs, Arab MKs, done enough? They say they do. A lot of others say they don't. There was some activity before of trying to lobby against it. They were all against, they voted all against the law, and they were all present in the readings, and they did a great job basically objecting and opposing the law. But whether they did enough before, I think also whether they believed it will really pass, this is also a question. Because we in Adala, we also questioned throughout the 7 years of this law being presented on the table of the Knesset, we really didn't think it will pass. I think that the political timing of Trump being elected, of Trump deciding on the move of the embassy, of the American embassy to Jerusalem, announcing that Jerusalem is the capital of Israel. I think that the political timing contributed to the passage of this constitution in a lot faster way than anyone thought that it will pass, because it was there on the table for more than 7 or 8 years. I hope I answered all that.
All right, I don't remember all the questions, but I wrote some of them here. First, how will it affect? I think you asked the question, or yeah, the gentleman earlier. Since I present the Druze community here, so I think that will affect the Druze community. It will make them, it will wake them up actually. It will make them realize their status here in the country, and maybe change their mind regarding some issues like serving the army, or being loyal to the country, or even voting for the right wing. Many people started even talking inside the Druze villages that they will not allow any people to advertise or to talk about like the coming elections. To support the Likud, or to support the right wing, like in the elections. What is it that we can do? Well, I don't think that anything that we do, or we're doing, or we've done, or all the demonstrations will change the law, or change anything about it, or even do anything to it. I do think that we should look at it in the like forward. Now this law is waking some people up. It will make us, I think that we should work on education again for the Arabs, and also for the Jewish people, educate them on new principles that will make them actually, at the end, vote not for the right wing, and that other government maybe will change the law. Why can't all the minorities unite? I wrote something about that on Facebook. The guy here asked it. Well, I don't think the Arabs will ever accept being in a demonstration like what the Druze did. Because first, we have the Israeli flag, the same flag that actually is being held in the war, the same flag that many Palestinians, their brothers and their sisters and their relatives, their own people actually were killed under it. And that flag was held in the demonstration, the Druze demonstration. And also the speech itself, the mercenary speech, like we serve the army, so you should give us rights. The Arabs will absolutely not join that, because they didn't serve the army, and that's just like saying we killed your brothers and sisters, and we want to be equal just like you are. So of course the Arabs will not support that. So yeah, the thing is that this whole, many other things, but basically those two things, and that the Arabs will absolutely not join the Druze on the same speech, and that's why they will not unite.
Do you think it works the other way around as well?
What?
Do you think it works the other way around as well?
Absolutely not, because
Jews would not join
No, because they held the Palestinian flags and they took in a patriotic speech, and they are Palestinians. No, they will not join them. And that works perfectly for Netanyahu, and that works perfectly for the government, because dividing all the minorities works for them.
The law was passed with 62. This is not so many. I mean, it was very close not to pass. I think the chances to correct it are not low. I wouldn't say very high, but there is a good chance to make changes, I think. I think the discourse around it and how radically the Druze community was hurted, and also the effect of it. I think maybe the Knesset members, Kachlan said we made a mistake. He said that. So there's a chance that in the next Knesset it can be changed. I seriously think it's not so, it shouldn't be so, hard. It's doable. Not easy, but doable. Second, white minorities cannot be, create coalition. I think it's not a Zionist conspiracy, making the Mizrahi against the Arab. No, the very deep Jewish identity of the Mizrahim is not a conspiracy. It's true. It's sincere. And the point I'm trying to make that we do have layers of identity, and some of them we share with different. I mean, you can be Mizrahi and share the class interest, the economical interest with whoever, and the national interest with someone, and the gender interest. Am I understood?
Yeah.
So for me, the point is not to try to create a coalition of us versus they, just different us, but to work toward many ad hoc coalitions, to be open to cooperate with someone, even if you don't agree with him on many other issues. It's not either we are together or we're into different sides. We can be sometimes together and sometimes in different sides. And I think the more we have those kind of coalitions, it creates a side effect for that. Because once you work with someone, for example, Shuli Wale and Zava Galon, who worked this Knesset against
Prostitution.
a criminalization of prostitution. Yeah. So it creates something between them. They could trust each other. They could work with each other on something. I know it sounds very naive, but Knesset members are also people. And when there is a trust built between two people, it's opening another options. So I know you think I'm naive, but it's got to be place for naive people also. And about Jewish ethic. Look, it's a struggle around illegal, you can say illegal immigrants to Israel. You can say, every word you use would be a statement for itself. But when in South Tel Aviv, you know what I'm talking about? So, yeah, okay, that's fair. The language was totally Jewish. All the illustration used Vegir law. If you remember, all the codes were very Jewish, and I think it worked. I mean, I think it came from deep place, Jewish deep place, and it worked. It wasn't only using of words. And I think working with Jewish ethics, with using the Jewish language, using the Jewish principle, and not only the language, the Western language of human rights, would be more accepted in the Israeli society. And I think that's something that was not tried enough.
Thank you. We need to finish. I just want to refer to Nivin's question as part of closing. We are believing in partnership between Israelis and Palestinians. We believe eventually in equality between the people, if it's within two states or one. And we didn't discuss it here, but this law has implications on these issues as well. I know that in the settlement movement, the Jewish Home, they are saying that this law will help to settle illegal settlements that are in dispute, because the government is supportive now of Jewish villages as a constitutional law. Besides that, maybe an annexation of some area of the famous historical lands of Israel can be passed accordingly. According to the government, with Netanyahu specifically, he says, if we believe in two-state solution, this law promises us that one of the states will be Jewish. And it won't be one Palestinian state and one all-citizen state. This is an argument of the central right, for example. On the other hand, I see in the Palestinian point of view something very interesting that happens, and after many, many years, the Palestinians were divided into different classes and different statuses. Suddenly, all of them speak about the word apartheid. And it seems they are becoming part of the same camp opposing discrimination by the government. And with Univin, I saw that there is a lot of interest about the nation-state law, although that you can consider it as an internal Israeli issue that in the past wasn't a part of the Palestinian interest in the West Bank.
It was a strike also in the West Bank and in Gaza and in Jerusalem for the nation-state law.
Yeah, so if we say about, if we talk about the backlash, there is kind of a Palestinian coalition as a backlash to the nation-state law. Yeah. So yesterday there was a strike inside Israel and outside.
It had a huge impact.
And regarding the coalition of the Palestinians. Anyway, we need to leave. I want to be cautious of your time. Thank you very much. I want to thank the speakers and thank you for being here.